Welcome to Ask the Experts. Tonight's guest is the wonderful and interesting Toni Gattone, who's a longtime friend of mine from the National Speakers Association. I'm Ilene Dillon, and we have with us tonight our other two co-hosts, Lady Lou Dewey and Marian LaSalle. And we're talking about adaptive gardening and resilience with Toni Gattone. So, Lou, is there more? Can you tell us some about how people can get in contact or get sign up, subscribe?
I'd be happy to. She's talking about our e-newsletter that's Natural Curiosity. And if you'll go to naturalcuriosity.life, our website, and scroll to the bottom, there's a little box. You just put your name in there and you will be subscribed. And then you'll get all of the information about our shows, recipes, tips, quotes, all kinds of fun things over there. So we'd love to have you on our email list. And of course, we're simultaneously being aired tonight on Facebook and YouTube. So this is such a fun show for all of us. So I'm going to turn it over to Marian because I know she's got some questions for Toni.
I certainly do. We have really been looking forward to you being on our show because, when someone from our group recommends somebody, we know it's somebody special and that you have so much to share. So I know that because everybody has been locked down, we're all interested in gardening and doing the things that you are just really immersed in. So my first question for you is, how did you get involved in what you're doing now?
Well, I think the easiest way is to thank my mother.
Good.
I inherited, thank you, Mom. I inherited a lot of really wonderful traits from her. Her chronic bad back was not one of them.
Oh.
And it used to put me down, and it would put me down for weeks at a time. And it was the path that led me to find out how I personally could keep gardening, because it's my passion, it's my joy, and how I could keep doing it, even though my back kept saying, not today. And I discovered adaptive gardening and never looked back. Started speaking, wrote a book, and having fun ever since.
So, Toni, in March, my son, I live full-time in my RV now, and my son said, come off the road. And the way he enticed me here was to say, you can be in charge of the family vegetable garden. And it's been a savior for me, although I don't have the adaptive. Actually, it's been good to stretch my back out because I've really had to reach. But what I'm curious about is, have you had a garden during COVID, and what has it done for you?
Oh, it's my salvation. I don't know. I think I would have been bouncing off walls without it. To me, there's no better stress reduction than, grabbing your pruner and going out and deadheading. Because when you're out there in the garden, you can't think about anything besides that plant in front of you. And it just brings me such joy. And even my husband was out while I was getting ready. He was out and going, God, he said, I just love this. And I think that's what happens, is that you get a sense of accomplishment and purpose from your garden, and you get to eat the fruits of your labor. What can be better than that?
Now, you just mentioned something with your husband going out, because as I was thinking about it, I have 2 grandchildren and my son and daughter-in-law here. And what I was remembering is, especially in the beginning, every day, my window looks out on the garden. Every day, they all went out and checked the garden. And it was a good thing my window does look out on the garden, because I could see how many of them were also watering. It would have been badly overwatered. But I thought what to me it was they would say, oh, thank you you work so hard on the garden. And I go, no, I don't. I put the seeds in the ground and God takes over the rest,
Exactly.
And I think that was one of the things that was so wonderful, is to relate to the miracle of growth, how you can take a tiny little seed and get a celery plant out of it, for example.
Exactly. I remember the first time my grandkids came to visit. They just recently moved to the Sacramento area. They were up in Canada. And when they first got here, I said, does anybody here want to help me make the salad? And Maddie, who had then, I think she was about 10 years old, said, sure, Grandma Toni, I'll help. So I went outside and I showed her how to take lettuce leaves off of the plant. And she had such pride when we had salad that night that, it made it all worthwhile. So yeah, it's truly a joy to bring the grandkids and other folks into it, because it's that sense of, like I say, accomplishment, that you can eat what you grow. It's like, what a concept.
Toni, can we make a little tiny suggestion?
Sure.
Every time you put your hand down, it thumps.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That's the problem with my being Italian. I do talk with my hands a lot.
Me too.
Okay. So, but yeah, and I'm not always just for growing food. I mean, it's also a joy to have beautiful flowers that you can bring in and enjoy at your dining room table or at your kitchen or your bathroom next to your bed. I mean, it's just the whole idea of growing and enjoying. That's the bottom line.
It is wonderful.
Well, I've noticed a lot of people are really taking on things that they would never have done before. They're too busy building their business and going to a job, and they've been home for a while. And so even me, I mean, my only regret for my parents was I didn't help my dad with his rose garden. I mean, I didn't want to get dirt under my fingers and all that, But even me, I wanted to dig outside in the whatever. I wanted to grow stuff. I just wanted to be out there.
Yeah.
Hug a tree.
Hug a tree. Well, I think it's so important, especially as we age, that's not me.
Sorry.
As we age, it's so important to be out in nature, to be able to get the vitamin D. Yes. And to appreciate when you have the blue skies, appreciate those blue skies every day, because, some days you wake up and you don't have blue skies as what we've been going through in California. So, it's truly a joy.
We're talking about it some, but I find I want you to relate more. What is it about gardening and working with nature that builds resiliency?
Well, as seniors, even not just as seniors, but as we go through life, we have issues that can come up with our bodies. And whether it's a bad back or bad knees or shoulder or wrist or bad neck, you know what I'm talking about. And those physical challenges can hold you back from doing what you want to do, whether it's gardening or driving or really anything. It can hold you back. And my philosophy is that if you can learn to be resilient, that there's always another way to get it done. And I think about resilience and I think about RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And what a resilient icon she was.
Yes, doesn't it make you feel good just hearing that name?
I know. And I mean, she had such adversity in her life. I mean, she lost her mother, who was her inspiration, her supporter, the day before graduation from high school to cancer. She lost her husband. I mean, she herself had liver cancer, lung cancer, pancreatic cancer. She had a heart stent put in. Okay, this was someone who just said, okay, that happened, and I'm going on. I'm finding another way. I'm going forward. That's resilience. Yes. And that's, what I've come to find out is resilience it's like a muscle that you can strengthen if you have consciousness about it. Mm-hmm. So I refer to it as conscious living, conscious gardening. And then that can bring you to being a resilient person. Speaking of, I love your website.
Yes.
And it is just gorgeous, full of vibrant colors, greens, and look at those sunflowers. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah, it just won an award, as a matter of fact. Oh, I can see why. Look at that. I belong to an organization called the Garden Com International. So it's garden communicators, photographers, speakers, writers, bloggers. And and my website won a silver award this year. So I was pretty excited.
That's wonderful. Wow, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. It was a lot of work, but seems like it paid off. So it's all good. Yeah. And if you'd like to go over and check out her website, please do. It is ToniGattone.com. And for those of you who are listening to us on our podcast, let me spell it for you because it is a little different spelling than you might think of. Toni, ToniGattone.com. And how would you like for people to reach out to you, Toni? Is it your email address? Do you have something on your website, like a contact form? Sure. As a matter of fact, if they go to my website and they sign up for my newsletter, I send out a blog and newsletter about once a month. And if they sign up for a newsletter, I will also offer to them a 30-minute consultation, either by Zoom or FaceTime, of course, to help them to think about how they can have a garden that is really fruitful and productive for them. And we can do it virtually, which is really fun. Sure. Yeah. And people can have a garden even if they live in the city because they've got yards or flower beds and they can turn that into a garden. My garden I'm on 5.5 acres, so I got plenty of room, but I don't garden anymore because of the critters that live out here with us. And I do what little gardening I do is I do it in pots. Sure. If you get to that point where you think, I got to go out there and work, and it's like, I don't know if I can do it today, get a chair, sit down next to them. And then that way you can get up close and personal and see what's really going on there and make sure you don't have critters going on. It's a good way to stay on top of them. And I have an old picnic table that I grew my kale on in the pots and a couple of the smaller tomatoes, the little patio tomatoes. They're just sitting on this table, so I don't have to bend over. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. Well, it's anything will work for a container as long as it has drainage and as long as it's a little bit elevated. You don't want it. In other words, if it's on a table, put a couple of stones or something underneath so it'll drain out easily and not get clogged. Because most veggies, especially herbs, don't want to have soggy feet. They don't like soggy feet at all. So they want that draining soil. Yeah.
So Toni, adaptive gardening involves sometimes adaptive tools.
Yes.
And for people who are technologically interested, including myself here, what are some of the more unique or useful or outstanding adaptive gardening tools that people can use?
Well, I think the very first thing that I always recommend to people is to have a reversible kneeler bench. And that is something that allows for you to kneel down and use the legs of the bench, if you will, to stand back up. Then you can turn it upside down and you can sit on it. Mm-hmm. And that is just, we have 3 of them because we have them stashed in certain places. So we never have to, get down on our knees, or have to struggle to get up once we're down there. the joys of aging. Let's see. I mean, there's a number of things that people can do if they have vision issues. For example, they can get a very inexpensive product at a hardware store called Plastidip. And Plastidip is it's a rubberized liquid that you can dip all the handles of your tools to make them different colors. So if you want to make them yellow, if you want to make them red, that way you're not going to accidentally throw them away. And it also gives you a little bit more cushion. Something else that people can do, I'm a firm believer. I could talk for a half hour on tools, just tools alone. I'm a firm believer that people should buy the best pruner that their budget can afford, because and you don't want to do it online. You want to be able to go into a nursery or a hardware store and try it in your hand. Make sure that it's comfortable. If you have a large hand or a small hand, or you're a lefty or a righty, the pruner is the number one tool. And then the second thing I recommend is sharpen them. I sell a wonderful ironwood sharpener that is a fabulous way to keep your tools sharp and ready to go when you go out.
I have a question about that. Do you have to take the pruners apart to sharpen them?
No.
Oh, that's perfect, because I have had to learn to take the tools apart to sharpen them, and it's a mess.
Oh,
I gotta have that. I'll get one.
Okay. Well, that's also on my website. You can go and I've got an online store there. I just feel like I look at it this way, Lady Lou. I want to make things easy for people. I get sent tools all the time from manufacturers. And if they're a pain in the butt to put together and you can't, I'm not going there. If it's hard for me to use, I can't recommend it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. And you have pictures of the tools, the special tools that you use, right? On your
definitely
website?
On my website. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because my background is that I used to be a sales rep, and I had my own rep agency. So I would go to wholesale garden shows and find manufacturers to represent, bring them back to my reps, and then they would go out and sell the products to nurseries and gift stores and hardware stores, whatever. And I did that as well until my back went out.
Yeah.
And then it was no going back. Yeah. Yeah. Do any of you have issues with your backs, or you all?
I have an issue with my neck, and which is hard when you're driving an RV, because I have an issue with some what do you call those things that are in your neck? Anyway, with the upper spine, and I have to constantly exercise. So sometimes it's difficult, but it's harder on driving than it is with the garden.
Yeah,
I don't pick anything up. And especially me, if I'm going down, then somebody better be around to help me back up, So I like the idea of the kneel thing where you said you could flip it over and sit down, because I do want to spend time outside. I do want to get down lower. Like my dog is this big, so in order to pet her, I have to go way down, so I do want to. It's just hard to get back up. We have a couple of messages in the audience. Karen is saying everyone should know some gardening tips, especially in the times we are living in. And I agree with that.
Yes.
It's so true.
I do. I see you have a YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I do.
And Karen wants to know, are you a master gardener?
Yes, I am. I became a master gardener in 2011, and when my back was just killing me, and I realized by giving up some of the sales territory to my reps, I thought, okay, I don't have to get in and out of a car 10 times a day and carry samples and catalogs. So I signed up for the Master Gardener program, and that literally changed my life. My husband and I would go out, and we would never see anybody we knew. And you become a master gardener, you're always running into somebody. And it's just, I learned research-based information. So they dispel, as you know, Lady Lou, they dispel the myths that we grow up with.
Yes.
And you learn the research of what really it's going to take to be successful in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a joy. It's a joy to be involved.
So we need to insert that Lady Lou is a master gardener too,
She
right?
is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to take that from you.
No.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because it was a real learning experience. It was I think it was 6 weeks of twice a week that we'd go in for classes. And then we would work every Wednesday was work day for 4 hours. And we would put in our hours while we were studying, because we were still learning when we were doing our hours.
Right.
We had to have 60 hours as a newbie. And then after that, it was 30 hours. And most cities and most bigger towns have an extension office, or it's connected sometimes with a university like our Texas A&M. They have an extension office here in the Conroe area that I got my training at. And just look around and find out if there is an area where you can go to get your master gardener stuff. It's great stuff, interesting stuff.
It really is. Yeah. It opened my eyes. I always used to think about the plants, and what I realized that it's not about the plants, it's about the soil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have good soil, no matter what you put in that same place, it's going to die.
Yeah. Well, they taught us the first thing out of the box was it's not dirt, it's soil.
It's soil.
Dirt is what you get under your fingernails or track into the house.
Yeah.
There was your problem, Marian. You were trying to work with dirt, and you should have been working with soil.
Now we know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it's, our class, there was like 35. We had 35 in the class. And, I think there's still maybe 25, almost 30 that are still affiliated. And, some people will drop back if life gets complicated. I did when I was writing my book, but I missed it. So I'm active again, and I don't know when we're going to see each other with this COVID. Yeah.
Well, when we're talking about, this is something, Toni, that's bothered me for a long time.
What's that?
We have so many people in this world and in this country. Thank you so much. I appreciate that Italian approach. That's really good. We have so many people who are hungry, and it's not that hard to grow things. And I know there have been a number of people like Alice Waters who taught kids in Berkeley to garden and so forth. But what's the, to do something that could help you with your subsistence or cut back your grocery bill? What's the minimum somebody could do in order to take advantage of growing, even if they need it to do it adaptively or on their windowsill or something like that? What's the minimum?
Exactly. I mean, windowsills are a great place to grow, depending on your light. I mean, you can grow pots outside your kitchen door. The main thing is just to, if you're going to grow food, you're going to need some good sunshine.
Yeah.
And so look around to the area that has the most sun, and try it. Get some pots. Get some seeds, or go to the nursery and buy some starts, and just try it and see what happens. To me, that's what gardening is all about anyway. It's trial and error. But yeah, you can do so much with so little. And I always suggest to people, start small.
Like with spices or something, or like maybe with spices, or one of the things I found fun and quick to grow is lettuce.
Yes. That's what I mean, a salad bowl. I like to get different kinds, so that I just got some wonderful seeds from a company called Botanical Interests. And it was a mixture of different lettuces, so that you could sprinkle these around in a bowl, get some soil on top, keep them watered. And I mean, the joy of making your own salad. And what's really cool, And what I didn't realize until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, is that you can cut the lettuce down so that you've got maybe an inch and a half, and then watch, because very, very often you'll get more shoots coming out and it'll regrow.
So how dare you cut me off? I'm going to grow again. Hey, we have another audience member who's talking to us. This is Peggy Moore. She says, I use a plastic outdoor chair and move it along as I plant. I have a drill bit that drills holes in soil. I have problems with my back and legs, and I refuse to give in and not garden. Very good.
Yay.
Yay! Peggy, I don't know you, but it sure seems like you were a plant in the audience. I mean, that's perfect, Peggy.
Perfect.
That's actually perfect, because my motto is never give up. So you're doing all the right things, girl. You just work with what you got and keep going. That's the joy of it. Yeah.
Now, Toni, I know that you have a book for sale. I found it on Amazon and your website, and I'd love for people to be able to go and find it easily. So this is what it looks like. It's called The Lifelong Gardener. And as you can tell, Toni is just having a blast. And I know there's lots of great tips in this book. Can you tell us a little bit about how this book came about and what's inside?
Well, it came about, I started speaking in 2015, and in 2017, I gave my seminar, You Can Garden for Life, at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show in Seattle. And afterwards, an acquisition editor from Timber Press called me and asked me if I would be interested in writing a book based on my seminar. And I was stunned. Honored, humbled, and scared out of my mind, because how do you turn an hour's talk into 35,000 words? I was, but of course I had to say yes, because I know that, it's not every day that you get a book deal that would just fall in your lap. So that's when I started making plans of letting go of my rep business so that I could focus on writing this book. And, I had some tremendous help from the editors at Timber Press. And one of my really dear friends, Heidi Hornberger, was my photographer. She had just retired. She was looking for a new project. She has an amazing eye. And we had so much fun going out on location to public gardens and private gardens, and I would go and interview people for the book, real life gardeners, and what issues that they were having in the garden. We had a ball putting it together. So it's done really well. It's already in second printing. So I'm really excited to be able to share the book that people can buy on my website. I'll autograph it for them if they buy it on my website and mail it out, or they can buy it on Amazon, whatever works. All the booksellers have them, Barnes and Noble, the rest of them. So yeah, it's been quite an amazing journey, but one that I'll never forget, but life changed when I became a master gardener and when I wrote the book.
Did you make your 35,000 words?
I did. I did. Actually, the contract, I looked it up the other day. They only wanted 30,000 and I gave them 35,000.
There you go. Over deliver.
Well, it's hard to hold back when you're Italian. What can I tell you? Yeah. So
sometimes I'm jealous of Italians. You have a good reason not to hold back.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, my dad always used to say there's two kinds of people in this world: Italians and those that wish they were. But he was Sicilian, so what are you going to do? You listen to him when he talked. I'll tell you that. And my next book is about my mom, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
yeah.
What do you mean your next book? Tell us.
Yeah.
My mom was really a special human being. She was just adored by her sisters and her nieces and nephews, and she and I got along like two old shoes. And her, when she had a stroke and got ill, our lives were all changed dramatically at that point. And I started a journal during that time. And this is when emails were just starting to really get popular. And for whatever reason, I kept all the emails, I kept all the journals, and the book is about half written, and each chapter ends with one of her recipes.
Ah,
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I do want to get to it. And then, again, it'll come from a real place of heart. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
well, that is very okay. So Lady Lou and I are probably trying to talk at the same time here because we ask our audience, our community, to share their favorite tips, their favorite tools, their favorite recipes in our newsletter. So we would love for you to, honor us with something once in a while and send over a tip or a recipe from your mom, and we'll give you full credit, of course, and send everybody back to your website. And
Oh,
it's
that's
just
sweet.
a win-win for us, for our audience, and for you, the person
Oh,
who
that's
gives us
sweet.
the tip.
That's
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, because
As
she
a
was a
matter of
great
fact,
cook. So,
Karen from the, who said something earlier tonight,
uh-huh.
she gave us a recipe because she and her partner, they have a book study, or a book study. What do they call it, Lady
Like a
Lou? Do you
Book
remember?
club.
It's
Book
a
club.
book. Yes, a book club. They've had it for years and years and years, and every book that they study, they make the recipes from that book. So if it's other part of the world, and they cook, they really go out on a limb and just cook all kinds of things. And so they sent us a recipe, and we're hoping they'll send us more. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that we're really excited about. So feel free to send us
Okay.
any kind of tip or recipe.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we got lots of them.
Well,
We got lots.
that brings to mind what happened with the garden that I planted this summer. My daughter-in-law's family was from the Middle East. Middle East, and so and both her mother and father. Her father wrote a column for the newspaper on recipes, and he told me before he died a few years ago that he always did the recipe before he put it in the newspaper to make sure it was a good one. So he was this excellent cook. And what's been really interesting is I have grown a lot of the vegetables that I grew up with, that my grandparents grew, but when they get ripe, they're put into recipes that I'm not familiar with.
Oh.
And it's really interesting to taste some of the things. It's like, this is another way we can bring out our differences and put them together and blend them, is what I was suddenly hit with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I mean, growing up, of course, I'm 72. My mom, gosh, she would have been over 100 at this point. So there were some things that they just didn't make in those days. Like she never grew basil. It just, that was exotic. She never grew kale. They did corn, and this was the Midwest. They did lots of corn.
We didn't know what kale was. Okay.
Right. I mean, I remember the first time
kale.
that I came to California and I saw an artichoke, and I thought, what the heck is that? And it surprised me that my mom came out and she took one look at this artichoke and she said, okay. She pounded it on the counter, and it opened up. The leaves opened up, and she stuffed it with a meatball stuffing and poured tomato sauce over it. And it was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was amazing. She just saw a recipe like that in the newspaper and said, oh, I think I'm going to try this. And it was fabulous.
Nice.
Stuffed artichokes.
Karen says, have you visited other countries' gardens and designs?
Yes, most definitely. My needle got stuck about 35 years ago. My husband and I were married in Italy. And we fell in love. We fell in love with Italy, and we have visited a lot of gardens in Italy. But typically, it doesn't matter if we're in France, if we're in England. We used to do quite a bit of travel. we're always seeking out the gardens. And that's really kind of the fun of being a member of this GardenCom International, because whenever they bring people together for meetings, the first thing we do is plan the garden tours. And so, I mean, I was in Salt Lake City last year, and you think, Salt Lake City, what are the gardens like? They were fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I mean, a weekend will come and we'll drive to the San Francisco Botanic Garden. I mean, you know, when you love to garden, you'll seek out gardens wherever you go. Yeah. Thanks, Karen, for asking that.
My sister lives in Dallas, and they have an amazing garden. And every season they change it up. And you can walk through. It could take you all day to walk through and see everything. And there's a river, and there's lots of hills, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I just love going there. It's so peaceful. They have concerts, and you can just really enjoy yourself. And they have like a pass where you could go, you know, anytime you want. And if I lived there, I'd be there all the time. For sure.
Well, it brings you in touch with the glory of growing.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's even over in Berkeley, there's a succulent garden that will knock your socks off. And you think, succulents, you know, but they're massive. They're absolutely massive gardens, or massive plants that have been growing there for 20 and 30 years. And it's just, it really is kind of amazing to see what Mother Nature has given us, and the creativity that brings forth for people to bring together a collection of plants that grow well together. They've got the same growing needs and conditions, and it's magical. It's really magical.
I have a very specific question for you. So I don't know the name of it. Canis, I think, maybe. It grows tall.
Canna lilies. Canna lilies?
Okay.
Well, cannas, there's cannas and there's callas.
Okay, I don't think it's a canna lily. I think it's just a canis. But anyway, we bought some for our front yard, like on the side of the front yard, and alongside the driveway, between the house and the driveway. And no matter what I do, I can't keep them alive in the front yard. And so what do I blame that on? The soil, the sun? What should I try? Some other plant, or should I keep trying?
Well, are they very tall?
Yes.
And very colorful?
Yes.
And very colorful, like yes. Reds or oranges. Okay. Red. So those are cannas. Those are cannas. Cannas.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So what I would suggest you do, first of all, is look to see if there's anything going on there. Pests, for example. There's probably a website that you could access with Texas A&M that would help you to try to identify if there are potential pests that are eating away at it. But you mentioned soil, and soil is everything.
I heard you all say that. That's why I'm sounding. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about now, right?
Well, no. I mean, because they love sun. They absolutely love sun. And they do want water. They don't want to be overwatered because they're fairly drought tolerant. So the rest is soil. And maybe you add some amendments to it. Maybe you just add some fresh compost to them and just kind of dig it in lightly. And then have they ever been fertilized?
No.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah,
that's how beautiful they are.
Yeah, they are truly a beautiful plant. Okay, so start with fertilizing.
Okay.
Give yourself, there's a product that's easily available on the market called Osmocote, and that would work well. I tend to be the one that likes organic fertilizers, but Osmocote will work as well.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
So what about that? So many people, and I can hear people maybe even watching this show, Toni, saying, "Oh, but I don't have a green thumb. Everything I touch turns brown." I've heard so many people say that, and it doesn't. What is the trick besides having wonderful soil and giving water and nutrients? What and having sunlight? What is the trick to keep people from having a brown thumb?
Well, first of all, be willing to try and try again, I think is the best way to look at it. I talk to my plants.
Oh yeah.
I just, I do when I'm out there and I'm like, oh, you guys, I just put in some strawberries and some lettuces yesterday in this new self-watering raised bed that I have. And I'm talking to them the whole time I'm planting them and say, you guys are going to be so happy. You're going to be here for so long and you're going to feed so many people and you're going to take care of our hunger. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And how pretty they are. I just love to talk to my flowers.
I know. But I mean, Eileen, that's really it. If you've got good soil, good sun, and that's usually the culprit is the sun, and you fertilize them, most plants want to be fertilized, good couple of times every growing season, and they're on a consistent watering schedule. The rest is up to you and the conversation that you have with them.
That's right.
Thank you.
Does that help?
I'm one of those people. I stick something in the ground and it grows, probably 15 times more than I wanted. But I grew up on my grandparents' farm and everybody was growing things and that's how they made their living. So I expect plants to grow, and I think that's maybe part of it too, is what we believe in. If you believe plants pretty much want to put their roots down and grow, they might do that. But I hear so many people who get discouraged, and I know how wonderful it is. One of the things I've been impressed with today, is we've all been talking, is the reference to fun related to gardening. That it's fun to look at the flowers and it's fun to be out in the garden. And the other thing is we're told that one of the problems our kids have these days is they don't have a relationship with nature. And this is a simple way to get a relationship with nature. So I'm really, especially if with the adaptive gardening, you have a lot of grandparents who are getting their grandkids involved, Toni, I'm really grateful to you for doing that.
Well, and I think the other thing that's really important is if you are blessed with a green thumb, pass it on, like what you're doing with your grandkids. Pass it on. Talk to your neighbors. There's always going to be one neighbor down the block that says, I can't grow anything. And just say, what would you like to grow? And give them some suggestion. Give them some seeds. I mean, there, where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay, so I've got this really cool thing. All right. I don't know what you call it, but I call it the sensitive plant. So somebody gave me a sensitive plant once, and if you touch it, it goes, oh, and closes all up. And then pretty soon it looks around and says, okay, she's gone. I can help back up again. And it's a beautiful sight, and it just felt so good that I gave it to my nephew. I gave one to my nephew, and I couldn't find one that was alive that I could take to him. I had to order it online, and he had to grow it. Do you know that he remembers that from a little kid? I mean, he's grown. He's got kids of his own now. But he still remembers that present that I gave him, that sensitive plant that made him feel so good, that his mother killed, by the way, while he was gone.
Well, I'm glad we know that now.
but not too long ago, a couple years ago, I gave him another one, and he could share that with his son. And so it's so just cool. It's a thing, please, have fun with it.
Fun.
Make it a thing. Go out and hug trees. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
It is so fun. And I think a lot of people will now maybe get the bug and get out there this next spring, if nothing else, and start your own garden. It is fun.
Yeah, start small and then grow it from there. Have some success and some good salads or some good meals and then grow it.
I want to put a plug in for winter gardening. because I've been living in my RV, and gardening is the one thing I missed in the RV. So I attempted to grow some plants. I got a container and I put them in the bottom of the shower, which had overhead, but they didn't get enough light even when I took them out. But I stored my van someplace, and the woman who was there took my plants out and put them under a grow light, and I came back and had tomatoes. Right.
That's awesome.
And so I just want to say, they're inexpensive. You can get them at Home Depot or something like that, and you could grow something in the wintertime. So I want to encourage people, don't wait until the springtime. Take a pot or two and go ahead and do something now.
Oh.
And you can that really fits for adaptive, because you're going to be doing it on your countertop or your windowsill. Is that right, Toni?
Sure. As long as they have some good sunlight.
Mhm.
Yeah. As long as they have good sunlight, you can grow edibles. You're going to need a good couple of hours, 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you can do that, you can grow just about anything anywhere.
Thank you, Toni, for joining us tonight. Yes. We sure enjoyed you, and you people who are out there in the audience and your friends and neighbors need to grab this book. And Toni is, you can reach her on her website, ToniGattone.com, and you can get her book. You can sign up for her newsletter and get some tips. Heck, I bet you she's going to send us some tips, and so we want you to join our newsletter as well.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Okay. We have fun here. We love our experts. They come in and they just shine lights on us. And today we've learned a little bit more about how to garden. So come back again and see us again next Tuesday night. Toni, thank you.
Thank you, Toni.
So much, Toni.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to share the love. All right.
Bye.
Bye.